Welcome back. You're watching Good Evening India, and the question we're asking you: can politicians stop an officer from implementing the rear seat belt rule in the wake of what we're seeing in Kerala, that battle that is playing out between the transport minister and the policeman there? And we have with us in the studio Ms. Aditi Bhatt, who's a lawyer and director of policy and research with the Save Life Foundation. Good evening, Aditi.
Hi.
And I understand we have our first caller.
Yes, I think we can start off by going across to Ison Verghese, who's joining in from Cochin. Kerala is the big state which we're talking about. This is where that controversy started between the bureaucrat as well as the minister. Go ahead, Ison, with your question, suggestion, comment.
My comment would be it's easier for the ministers to come across and say about the vehicle speed, but they drive in Cochin, in the city of Cochin, and in the highway more than a speed of 100 kilometers an hour. And when it comes to the ordinary citizen, they cannot go at speed about 80. But we here are speaking about the safety of every individual citizen who drives the car in the city of Cochin and in Kerala. And I think it's very important for them to wear the seat belts. The ministers has got escort in the front and back, and the normal public is what is sideline, and they have their speed. So the ministers should not involve the bureaucrats or should not rule. Rishi Raj Singh is a person who has been implementing the rules and regulations in the city or in the state, which is normally best for the human beings.
Right.
And the accidents have come down to a certain extent, but it is for every individual citizen to ensure the safety and security which he was trying to implement. And the politicians, they take the advantages, and just to ensure I would say some of the biggest political mileage what they get out of this, and they interfere in this affair.
Is he getting political mileage out of this decision? That remains to be seen. Mr. Verghese, thanks very much. Arun Patwardhan is with us from Pune. Mr. Patwardhan, what are your views?
The rule of having seat belt and using them should be implemented. They have no right. Netas have no right to stop that. They are not above law and constitution. That's my view.
All right.
We have sat here by our respect, but they are not respecting us, and neither the law.
All right, thanks very much for your views. We'll just take one final caller before we go to our guest. Salu Kurian joining us from Bangalore. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I wanted to say was that I have a great respect for this minister, Mr. Thiruvananthapuram Radhakrishnan, for whatever he is doing. But unfortunately, what he said on the rear belt is, I think it's utter rubbish. That's the word I will use, because it is just not right. No, it's like equally important like you wear a helmet or you have the front seat belt. It is equally important to wear the rear belt also. That's my view. Let the politicians don't use the populist methods to get the votes. That's what my view is.
Right. Interesting comments coming in, Aditi. Most of them saying that they do not agree with what the minister is saying. We were talking about this earlier, and you said that technically the minister has the right to do what he is doing, but the argument he's putting forth for that holds no water.
Yeah, the funny thing is, the argument right now is that 80% of cars do not have rear seat belts. But the Central Motor Vehicles rules mandate, Rule 125 mandates that all cars should have had rear seat belts as well, and this was inserted in 2001. So, I mean, your argument of 80% of cars do not have, when lives are at risk, how can you not have the political will to implement such a simple thing as rear seat belts? I mean, forget the overall gamut of road safety where you need so many changes. If a state can't even implement as simple a thing as a rear seat belt, I would really question the political will there and where it's going.
All right, let's just squeeze in one more caller and then we'll go back to Aditi. Ajay again from Trivandrum joining in. Go ahead, Ajay.
Yeah, I guess this dispute in Kerala has all to do with some silly ego issue between that IPS officer and the minister. I think this is nothing. He's a very upright officer, straightforward officer. Probably he did not consult the minister before he issued that notification or whatever. I think that is what it has to do all about. Otherwise, this is a very silly thing for the politicians to do, to say that no, you should not wear seatbelt. That's very silly of politicians to do that. I think this is more to do with some ego issues rather than anything else.
All right. Thanks very much, Ajay. We have another caller from Kollam in Kerala. Mr. Ayyappan is with us. Sir, what do you believe, what do you think about what's going on in your state right now?
See, first of all, I would like to urge the people of Kerala to spare some time or spare some thought to Mr. Rishidas Singh. The important things, the things that he had done for the state for the past 3 to 4 years. He has revolutionized so many things. See, people will object to anything which has been implemented initially. Say, for example, when he implemented that the front seat was, the seatbelt was compulsory for the passenger sitting in the front, people objected. So what is happening right now? It has been implemented. The same thing happened when helmet was made compulsory. People objected. Now it's actually almost mandatory and everyone is following it. So I think the issue is more concerned about politicians than to people. See, if there is an option for four-wheelers to put the seat belt, you should adore by it. There is no question. What is the raw about it which I don't understand? It is just a play by some politicians which is happening over right now. I strongly recommend the people of Kerala to stand by Mr. Rishidas Singh and to make it happen.
All right. And interestingly, most of them, Aditi, all the comments that are coming in are all in favor of this IPS officer and none in favor of the minister. But, you know, having said that, while we're talking about the blame game between the bureaucrat or the IPS officer and the minister, I think ultimately on the ground, the responsibility is going to be on the people as well. And that's also a part of the enforcing challenge.
You know, I do agree with you. It is a people's responsibility as well. But then I would open the question also as to today, why are we having a debate on a particular state's sort of transport commissioner versus his own transport minister? That clearly shows that the overall road safety framework itself is so weak that it's allowing this kind of debate to happen. So that's really my bigger question. Why is there nothing that, you know, mandates certain things centrally? And that's also what we're saying. And Mr. Gadkari as well, a few days ago, has said that the Road Transport Ministry is looking at completely revamping road safety laws in India, and that's a completely welcome step. We shouldn't be debating sort of such a small issue when there are much larger things at stake as well.
Indeed, well, it's appalling that a minister decides to overturn a measure that is only going to help people. We have another caller from Trivandrum. Ajesh is with us. Ajesh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think people should be made mandatory for all the persons inside a four-wheeler. We should consider it as our own safety rather than a burden for our own comfort in traveling. And talking about researching, he has taken very effective steps in implementing helmets in our state. And also it would be a loss if researching leaves as transport commissioner. That's what I want.
Okay, thanks very much, Ajesh, for that. We've been getting majority of callers from Kerala, but now we also have a caller from New Delhi. Remember, this is an issue that affects the entire country. It's not just the streets of Kerala that we're talking about. PS Sharda joining in from the capital city. Go ahead, Mr. Sharda.
You see, in my view, this has two connotations. One is that when a rule has been made, then that rule has to be obeyed. This rule concerns the personal safety of the users of a vehicle on a public road. Having said that, the other aspect is that the road discipline itself requires research to be carried out before a rule is thrust suddenly over everybody. There is a lack of public education about it. So in case the government would make a rule, and these rules are made by the politicians in the dome of a legislative assembly or for the parliament. So as it is, unless people are either made aware of it or they are apprised suitably sufficiently ahead of time, because this costs money for ordinary people. And therefore, the politicians or any person who is using a vehicle on the road is a case where the person in question and the police are at loggers with each other. It is nothing to do with any institutional framework.
All right. Aditi, would you like to respond to this?
Yes, in fact, just a couple of things I would say. One is that, this rule was implemented coming from a direction from the MHA centrally from the Ministry of Home Affairs. And the funny thing is, this is not a new rule. This has been in the rule books for some time. What's suddenly happening is, after Mr. Munde's unfortunate demise, is that people are waking up to this and they're implementing something and enforcing something that's already there. So I would say that while public education and awareness is necessary, the simple act of wearing a seat belt shouldn't be something that really requires so much of debate or of the public being aware of this. It's an enforcement issue. It's been on the rule books. Let's make our roads safer.
Yes, he is hoping that all the people who are calling will at least go ahead and wear the rear seat belts.
I know, that's where the big question is. It also ends up becoming our responsibility really on the roads. All right, we'll continue with this focus. We'll continue getting in calls. So continue calling in. We'll take a very short break. We'll be back with this top focus. Do stay with us.
Welcome back. Yes, that is our focus this evening as we take calls from many of our viewers on their views on road safety and what's going on in Kerala between the Transport Minister and the Commissioner there. The latest caller we're getting is Mr. Assis Noori. I understand he's joining us from Delhi.
Go ahead, Mr. Noori.
2 points to make.
Yes, sir.
The passengers in the car, rear and front seat, are all traveling at the same speed. Hence, they are subject to the same physical forces when the car brakes. So, you need to have seat belts on all seats in working condition and used. That's the first part of the safety portion. The second part is that there exists a law, and due to the very sad demise of a minister in the government, which has come to the fore, and we are now taking paying more attention to it. As a result, today all cars do come with safety belts. All cars do have the facility to put them on, and no minister or Neta has the right to interfere with the safety measure that is for the good of citizens, regardless of his direction.
Right.
That's what I have to say.
All right, thanks very much, Mr. Noori. In fact, that is the point. Most of the cars that we're seeing these days, I mean, it's 2014. Every single car that is manufactured, they have seatbelts at the back. So that argument doesn't quite hold water. Let's find out what people in Mumbai are thinking. One of the callers coming in now from there, AC Nair, joining us. Go ahead, Mr. Nair. Mr. Nair, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes, Ms. Nair, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Nair speaking.
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. Nair.
See, we are in favor of the rear seat belt. Whatever Mr. Rishiraj is doing is a correct thing, and minister should not interfere with the...
All right, Ms. Nair. Thanks very much. We have another caller from Bellary. Sharad Kumar is with us. Sharad Kumar, your thoughts?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Right, we will try and establish a proper connection with him, but that is the view that's coming in, that we need to have these measures in place, but we were also talking about the implementation issues and how a circular would suffice for the whole country. I mean, this came into focus only because of the death of a minister, but this is something that has been in the rule books for quite some time now.
Yes, and just listening to the callers as well, what's very evident is that the country is very ready for a complete overhaul of road safety rules, laws, regulations, and it's again, it's sad that the political that a minister should be saying that he doesn't want this, but really in terms of enforcement, while provisions do exist where you can enforce certain rules which are already there in the rule books. There's also a lot of things right now in terms of enforcement itself that we could stand to improve, making it, less manual and less of human interface, more technological, etc. And we have to ultimately reach that stage while we are, instead here in a state debating about whether or not to even implement a back seat belt rule. I mean, in other countries, it's mandatory to be belted up in a bus as well, in a public bus, and there's a fine that's there. So, I mean, here we are in our own passenger cars where we are, not implementing it. So, I would really question where we stand in terms of our road safety regulations.
Right. I think we have time for one final caller, again from Kerala. Shyam joining us from Palakkad. Go ahead, Shyam.
Yeah, hi. Actually, this is the action taken just a month back. Okay, I was traveling from Palakkad to Thrissur. What happened is all of a sudden there was a checking happened, but they hadn't given any proper time, 1 month or 2 months, to implement the strategy. Okay, that is the biggest problem because the commissioner has been implemented and automatically within a week time the minister was withdrawing the law. So the both government as well as the police, the officials and the government jointly want to take the action according to me, and they should give some proper time, 1 month or 2 months, to implement this particular law.
Right. Why do you need 2 months to put on your seat belt? I wonder, but all right, point taken that some cars may want some sort of changes, as the minister put it. But again, this is 2014, as Arunada has been saying, and most cars come with seat belts. So
exactly. I mean, in terms of Kerala, then I would wonder what kind of cars are plying on the roads if they don't have back seat belts at the moment.
I think it boils down at the end of the day, it's for a very simple and a very minor issue. You just need to strap it on at the back seat, and I think we shouldn't lose sight of that final aspect.
And the facts as well, at least 400 people die every day due to road accidents in India. So perhaps that would give the minister and the people some food for thought.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, Ms. Bhatt, for being with us here on CNN Albion with your views, and thanks all of you for tuning in, calling with your comments and suggestions as well. But this is an issue that affects you and me. Continue your voices on our website or tweet us at IBN Live.